For many decades the army of Rome knew no equal. The external enemies of the Republic and then the Empire collapsed one after another under the ramming blow of cohorts blessed with the shadow of the Golden Eagle. The Romans thought everything through and created an organizational masterpiece of its time, deservedly called military machine. During the Empire, the army of Rome consisted of praetorian cohorts, legions, auxiliary troops, and several other varieties of armed units. To begin with, a couple of words about praetorians, in fact, the personal guard of the emperor. Their cohorts consisted of about 80% of foot soldiers. Each cohort consisted of 10 centuria, commanded by a tribune. The number of cohorts and their size could vary, but on average the Roman Empire had 9–10 cohorts of 500 men each. The overall command of the praetorians was exercised by 2 praetorian prefects. The identifying sign of the cohorts was a scorpion. The main place of their accommodation was a military camp in the vicinity of Rome. There were also placed 3 units, which were engaged in protection and order within Rome. In capital of empire there were also personal cavalry of emperor, from 500 up to 1,000 people and his personal bodyguards, Germans from tribe Bataves. The latter numbered up to 500 soldiers, the most numerous and at the same time the most known part of the Roman army, legions. During the reforms of Emperor Octavian Augustus, there were 25 legions. Each had its own number and name, having origin from the place of formation or from the name of the one who formed the legion. The common emblem of the largest military formations of Rome served as a golden eagle, which the soldiers treated as sacred relics. Each legion consisted of about 5,000 people, mostly infantrymen, and included 10 cohorts. The cohort was divided into 6 centuria, approximately 80 men each. The only exception was the first cohort. It consisted of 5 centuria of double the number of men, that is, about 800 men. Each legion consisted of 120 horsemen. This was the standard number for a very long time. It was not until the time of Emperor Gallienus that the legion cavalry grew to 726 men. Among the 59 centurions of the legion, the highest in rank was the primapile, who commanded the first centurion of the first cohort. Also included in the legion were 5 tribunes from among the horsemen class of Rome and 1 or more tribunes, 6 of them commanding the cavalry. 1 man held the office of prefect of the camp. The senatorial aristocracy or even the emperor himself was represented in the legion by 1 tribune Latoclavius. The commander of the legion up to the time of Emperor Gallienus was a legate. For about 200 years, Rome lost for various reasons 8 legions, but formed instead of them twice as many. This brought the total number of legions to 33. The second component of the Roman army, comparable in number to the legions, were auxiliary troops, auxiliary. As a rule, in a military campaign with the legions went equal in number parts of auxiliary troops. Each unit auxiliary had from 500 to 1,000 infantrymen or horsemen. Units, which were divided into auxiliary troops, in turn were divided into cohorts, ala and numeri, units. The most privileged among the auxiliary were the mounted units, ala. The ala was commanded by a prefect or tribune. The unit could include both heavily armed horsemen like cataphractari, and light cavalry, unprotected and armed only with shield and darts. There were also exotic ala dromedaries, camel riders for desert warfare. Infantry cohorts of auxiliary troops were divided into 6 or 10 centuria, depending on whether they were 500 or 1,000. They, like cavalry ales, were commanded by tribunes or prefects. The status of auxiliary cohorts depended on who they were recruited by. For example, Some cohorts were recruited on a voluntary basis from citizens of Rome and were equal to legionaries by their status. In the cohorts, whose status was less honorable, served as free residents of the Roman Empire, who did not have the title of citizen. Citizenship together with the benefits due to him was the reward for 25 years of service in the auxiliarii. Infantry cohorts of auxiliary troops varied greatly in both armament and functional tasks. They could be heavy, resembling legions as much as possible. They could be medium, in terms of heavy armament. As a rule, such units were recruited in different regions of the empire. Light infantry auxiliarians were armed with various throwing devices, Balearic slingers, Cretan and Syrian archers. There could even be cohorts of mixed auxiliarians. They included both infantry and cavalry. If it was a cohort of 500 composition, it included 6-foot centuria and 3 mounted terma. If 1,000, then 10 centurions of infantry and 6 terma horsemen. Detachments auxiliary were called by the name of the people from whom their initial composition was recruited, or by the name of the commander of the unit. Often the name of the emperor by whose will the cohort was created was added to the name. Cohorts often moved around the Roman Empire fighting, and could completely lose their original ethnic composition, as losses were replenished right where the unit was at that moment. A separate phenomenon in the Roman army were the numeri. This name of the unit was used in 2 meanings. The first was any unit that was not a legion, scarlet or cohort. An example would be the personal bodyguards of a legate. The second meaning referred to a troop of warriors who were not Romans and retained their ethnic characteristics. This category appeared during the reign of Emperor Domitian. Numeri could be mounted, on foot, mixed and were diverse in numbers. Researchers explain the emergence of this kind of units by the fact that in the 2nd century the ranks of auxiliarians flooded the flow of Roman citizens and Romanized residents of the empire without citizenship. To unite in one unit barbarians and Romans was considered undesirable, so it was necessary to create something new. In fact, in the 2nd century the numeri became what the auxiliary had been before. These diverse units not only gave Roman tactics flexibility and variety, they served a social function, contributing to the process of Romanization of the provinces. If we estimate the total number of troops that the Roman Empire had in the 1st–2nd century, it will be seen that it was constantly increasing. At the beginning of the reign of Octavian Augustus, the army consisted of about 125,000 legionaries, about the same number of auxiliary, 10,000 Roman garrison and fleet, most likely up to 40,000 people. The total was about 300,000 soldiers. By the end of the reign of Emperor Septimius Severus, according to researchers' estimates, the number of troops had grown to about 450,000 men. Legions were stationed in different provinces of the Roman Empire. Troops based in the interior provided security in the region, and if the legion stood on the border, around it invariably stretched the territory of war, where wars and skirmishes did not stop. When the tranquility of the Pax Romana was once again disturbed, it was time for a new military campaign.